thank you guys for the last 5 years. YouTube has been one of the things that has kept me going over these past 5 years. It's been really rough. Obviously, YouTube isn't the only thing I ever want to do, but because it's been so good for me and so successful, it I can't say more. There isn't much more I could say, but like, thank all of you. I know now there isn't a lot of us left. There's probably less than 100 people now watching my channel, so it's a little different now than it used to be, but I honestly don't mind because I'm doing better than I was doing when I started, so that's all that matters, right? And here's to doing better in the future. Hopefully in 2028, when I hit the 10 years, I'm doing really good. Or I'll just keep complaining about how I'm not doing good. Either way, I'm happy. I hope you guys are happy. I hope you guys are all having a nice day, night.
That video was from over a year ago. What happened? What changed from then to now? Everything. Back when I uploaded that video, I was celebrating 5 years on YouTube. I still wanted to see the channel grow and succeed, but I knew my hope would only get me so far, that I couldn't do anything to better my content, and that I was doomed to fail. Why did I have such a negative outlook? Well, it's easier to answer. My life at the time was in shambles. My relationship with my family has never been great, and when I say family, I mainly mean my dad, as I only grew up with him and my youngest brother. I had 5 other siblings, but due to complications, I wasn't able to see most of them until last month. That was over 12 years I went without seeing them. My mother passed when I was little, so she was barely around my life, but her death had a huge impact either way, even to this day. As most of you know by now, July 9th is my birthday, which is also the day I'm writing the script, so the video isn't up by then. I was either out all day or passed out because I'm still very sick right now. So, I'm sorry about that. I turned 20 though, and while the milestone was cool, I cried for the first hour of my birthday, because I reflected back on my life and realized how different it turned out than I expected it to be, and how far I had come from where I started. The last year of my life, specifically, has been the largest toll on me. It started in May, when I finally got a job after a year being out of high school and having no luck during finding work during that time. This was awesome at first because it meant that I could finally get a new PC and get back to working on this channel and all my other projects. Or it would have meant that if it wasn't for my living situation. You see, as I had said earlier, my relationship with my dad was never really great. He did a decent job raising me and my brother up until about 2018 when he had the first of many big psychotic or drug-related breakdowns, one of which landed me and my brother in a foster home for about 5 months. During this time, I was attempting to run 2 small YouTube channels, both which were taken away by the foster care once discovered, as they deemed I was too young and irresponsible for the internet. After leaving the foster home and returning to my dad, he had drastically changed. The medication they put him on led to a much calmer and more nonchalant version of him, who didn't see an issue with me using the internet, unlike he had before the foster home. He even bought me a PC. It was only $300, and it could barely run games like Minecraft or Roblox, but it gave me enough of a push forward to start uploading on YouTube. I created a new channel and called it Jakl Gaming, with the idea it would be a shared family channel, as JAKL stood for each of the initials of my family at the time. But my family was less enthusiastic about this idea, so I kept the name and began using the channel for personal use. From there, the story goes as you all remember. For those who have been longtime channel viewers, you know the journey the channel has been on, and for those who don't, you will have to wait till I have the muster enough energy to make that Just Jakl Throughout the Years video. If that ever actually gets created, that is, because, I'm kinda iffy with that kind of stuff. Behind the scenes, things were mostly normal. I had a rough time at school, which was mostly caused by me being a delinquent and skipping a lot of classes or other tomfoolery. The only major life change that happened between that time and COVID-19 was that I began dating my childhood best friend in early 2019, which will come back into importance later. Speaking of COVID, that happened, and it was a hidden blessing for my YouTube career. After uploading the accursed SCP-096 video, my channel had a small blow-up, which led to my motivation towards the channel increasing along with it. I began to try taking myself seriously, having my friends help me make thumbnails that netted my videos appear more like a quote-unquote actual YouTuber than just a shitposting gaming channel. This later led to a lot of stress, as the bigger my channel got and the more reputation I gained, I got more frustrated with the quality of my content, as I constantly felt like no matter how hard I pushed, it was never near the level where I wanted it to be. This caused a slow and steady divide between me and my friends as I pushed all of them away to focus on YouTube, and I rarely wanted to just casually game anymore. It's something I've learned from and look back on negatively. My home life during COVID was a lot different. My father didn't work, and all our money was obtained through a check once a month, in which of which 90% went towards rent and bills. The rest was left for us to figure out food situation. Because of this, all of 2020 and most of 2021, my family was constantly broke, eating bread and egg sandwiches or pasta every day, which doesn't sound all that bad, but after eating that for a better half of a year, it was pretty sucky. Eventually, lockdown ended and I got a job. Things died down for the rest of 2021 until early 2022, where I had a work injury that would left me unable to walk for a few months. I quit my job mostly because I didn't like it to begin with, and after my leg healed, I was left with 3 or 4 months in my senior year of high school, and I wasn't going to graduate. Fortunately, I enrolled in an alternative school and did a course to make up for all the credits needed to graduate, and I finished high school a little early. When I got out of school, I began looking for a job and a way to upload on YouTube, as my gaming laptop had shit the bed in late 2021. I went that entire year without finding a job, and at the end of my year, my life got flipped upside down. In November of 2022, my dad had overdosed and almost died. By the time me and my brother had found him, he was brain dead. He recovered after a few days, but Child Family Services took my brother away from him. I was exempt from this because I had turned 18 a few months prior, but still. In the aftermath of my dad's incident, I was left to help take care of him, which I neglected to do so, as he could function well enough even though he had lost usage of one of his arms. Our relationship suffered the most during this time, as I began to see my dad for the shitty person he was. I was constantly finding excuses to leave home to stay with my girlfriend for weeks or months at a time, and I frequently stayed at friends' houses when I could. Eventually, I got that job in early 2023, as I mentioned way earlier. My dad began to take advantage of that and began to demand me to pay rent and other amenities for the apartment, which I wouldn't have too much of an issue with if the apartment was inhabitable or if the money was even going towards rent. From 2020 to 2023, my apartment became more and more uninhabitable. We had a mouse infestation, which went on for the entire span of those years. On top of that, my dad and younger brother refused to clean up after themselves, even around guests, who were frequent as my dad and brother constantly had people in and out of our apartment, which made it hard to have any downtime for recordings or just privacy overall. My dad would also let strangers or junkies stay over the house for days, weeks, or months at a time, some of them taking up the other bed in my room or my dad's bed. I was constantly annoyed with all the people staying with us because it usually meant my lifestyle had to change because of them. I couldn't stay out too late because someone wanted to sleep in the other bed. I couldn't sleep because someone in my room was watching TV or on the phone. I couldn't leave my room while my dad and the junkies invited people over or did drugs out there. I'm not going to reveal any more for the sake of my sanity or for the random people who come across this video, but I can promise this was just the very tip of the iceberg and it went way down. It wasn't until late August of last year when I finally snapped. I was always scared of trying to stick up for myself or change anything because I liked what little comfort I had during all the chaos of the last few years. But everyone has a breaking point, and I reached my own. I contacted a few close friends and alerting them that I was going to be changing all my socials to distance myself from the stress and drama of being just Jakl had accumulated over the years. I then went on a break with my girlfriend, which later led to me breaking up with her a little over 2 weeks later after I had thought it over and decided it was best for both of us. Before the breakup, however, I made the biggest change of my life. I moved out. Well, technically, I was kicked out, but I was on board with it. My dad had bothered me while I was at work for $100, as he did every week, but after telling him I could only do $80 because I had plans that week, he proceeded to flip out of me and berated me for being ungrateful and being a shitty son. So for once, I agree with him. I was ungrateful. I was done putting a third of my paycheck into a trash dump of a home every month just to struggle and feed myself or enjoy my privacy. After hearing this, my dad told me to get out if I didn't like it there, so I did. I got off my shift at midnight, I went home, I packed what little shit I owned, and left. I wound up moving into my friend's house. You guys remember him as Whispering Wolf, aka Phil. Shortly after, I broke things off with my girlfriend after having nearly 5 years of dating her, and I fully quit the Just Jakl mantle. Now, if this was anyone else, the story would end there. Happy ever after. Right? Not me, though. I lived with Phil for about 7 months, but was able to save up a lot of money, as he nor his dad never asked me to pay rent just to take care of myself. While it wasn't perfect, seeing as I spent most of my time on a couch or on my job, it was leagues better than living with my dad, who had also gotten evicted a month after I moved out. I picked up a second job and started focusing on my other channel, the one I told you about in my quitting video, all while trying to figure out adulthood. Surprisingly, my tax return was a lot easier than I thought it would be. It wasn't until late April that I was informed by Phil's dad that the landlord was not happy with me staying there, seeing that I wasn't on the lease and he wanted me gone ASAP. I began to freak out, seeing that I hadn't found an apartment to move into, and that rent was only going up by the week where I was living. Luckily, one of the regulars of my second job offered me a temporary room to stay in until I got back on my feet. I took his offer and moved in. Less than 2 weeks later, I was awoken one afternoon by the police who informed me the guy who was letting me stay there was being sectioned to a hospital and I could not stay there. There's a lot more to the story, but I honestly don't feel like getting into the whole situation on here. This meant one thing though. I was now completely homeless. I remained homeless for the next 2 months. I would frequently sleep in the back room of my job, at the desk, or in parks, sometimes at a friend's if I was lucky. This took the biggest toll on my mental health and also my body, which was falling apart due to all the walking I was doing. And on top of that, it turns out my skin is super sensitive to the sun, and I got sun poisoning in my legs, which left both of them swollen for the entire time I was homeless, which was very painful. I spent most of these 2 months away from the internet, alone with my thoughts and whatever songs I had downloaded on Spotify. I did a lot of reflecting during this time, and also got to meet some great new people, seeing that I had a lot more free time than I would like to have outside. I wouldn't say it was a positive experience, but it was definitely a learning one. I cherish my life now much more because of it. I know some people have been homeless for a lot longer than 2 months, and I was thankful to get a paycheck every week, but it was probably one of the most humbling experiences I've ever lived through to this day. All of that led to a little over 2 weeks ago, when I quit my job, grabbed my stuff, got on a plane to Texas to move in with my now girlfriend. It's been great so far. I've been catching up on a lot of sleep, relaxation, video games, and all the internet stuff. The last 6 years of my life have been really hectic. My life has completely changed, and now I'm on the other side of the country from where I lived before. And whether it was all for better or for worse, this is where my life stands now, and it has been a struggle, and I've attempted on my life during it. But I'm glad I didn't go through with it. I'm still healing, and I know none of this will ever leave me. It's a part of me now. There's so much more I could talk about, but that'll probably take an 80-part series due to all the bullshit that has occurred during my life. I know I'm not special, and that people have been through a lot more than I have, but I also know a lot of people haven't. It hurts sometimes to meet people who break down over trivial things after things I've been through, but I understand everyone deals with stuff differently. And I've been told time and time again by friends and family they have no clue how I've made it through everything, and I honestly don't know either. It's like every time I wanted to give in and just let shit fall apart around me, something deep inside me would rip me out of that state and kick my ass back on track. Whatever that is deep down inside of me, I'm glad it kept pushing me. I also want to thank every person who has been with me for the last few years. From last year till now, the people close to me have almost completely changed, and it can be difficult for me to accept that sometimes, but I'm so thankful for the people I have in my life now. I used to talk to my old group about what would be like in the future, and who would we meet, but I never thought I'd be meeting those people without them. For those I've hurt in the past, don't take this video as a pity on me. I did shitty things too. And whether I can partially blame my actions on the environment I've been in the last few years, I chose to do those things, and I have reflected on my past actions the last year. I know some people will never change their viewpoint on me, and I understand that. I know I can't get closure with every friendship, because some people don't need the closure I feel like I need. Knowing that harsh reality sucks, but it's something I have to accept. That's about it. I think I've covered every major event I could think of, but as I said before, there's so much more I didn't cover in this video, and I doubt I ever will cover everything. I won't say my life is perfect now, because it's far from it, but for the first time in a long time, I feel at peace. A lot of things have happened, and I've lost a lot of people. But I know that where I am now is where I'm supposed to be, because I feel happy. And it's been a long time since I felt like that. Stepping away from the channel and quitting and moving on my social medias, it probably wasn't the main choice that could have gone with. You know, there probably was other routes, but it felt right for me. And honestly, since I've done that, I felt so much better. Just a lot of people who weren't just, how do you say? We're going off script now here, so I'm trying to get all the words together. Seeing as a lot of people didn't really know as much of my private life except for my friends, it was stressful. I used to put a lot of shit onto them just because I didn't know how to deal with everything myself, and I didn't really have that sort of like person in my life I could look up for to know how to act. It was always people looking up for me, and like it was stressful because I was the person being looked up to, but I was in shambles all the time, and I felt like because of that I made a lot of bad choices. And I know, like I said before, I can blame some of the choices I've made on my environment, but some of that also was me. I'm not exempt from any of that either. Sometimes I didn't know how to do things and I would fuck up, and people would get upset because people looked up towards me, and when I fucked up, they're like, how could you do this? And I just wanted to tell them that I'm not some great person that everyone would say I was sometimes. I wasn't some big YouTuber, I never have been. I'm just a person struggling, a lot more than some of you guys are, and I know some people are struggling more than I am, and I wanted to have something, an outlet. And at the time, YouTube was my outlet. And sometimes I abused that, and sometimes people got hurt because of it, because I couldn't see past my own thoughts, and I'm sorry. I never wanted anything more than just an escape from my world. That's what YouTube has been for me for the last years. Every time I made a video and I got subscribers and I built a fan base and my friends would all be around, it felt like I wasn't living at my house with the mice or the people or my dad who was always angry or just the trash everywhere. It felt different, and I could have probably made a difference in my own personal life, but I didn't know what to do. I was a kid, and that's no excuse, but I didn't have a role model to look up for. I didn't have parents to ask what to do because my parent was too busy doing drugs and a lot of other shitty things. And it's been rough. I don't know where I'd be nowadays if I didn't have stuff like the channel or the people that I had back then. And I'm only here now because of those people and because of this channel. And while I don't use it anymore, it's for my own good. And I don't know how important this is to anyone else, because like I've noted in past videos, my views dropped off astronomically the last year or so. But I know some people will see this, and I hope that the people who do, that you know now my story. Whether you were someone who knew me behind the scenes or someone who is just coming across this video now, this has been my life for the last couple of years, and there's so much more that I haven't told. It's been rough, but I hope now things will finally have some semblance of normalcy. That's it for now. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.